did a follow-up the following week I was on, her report came through again. And once again, I picked up the phone. And she had already been to the doctor, and the doctor had told her they were running tests because they were afraid that she had some kind of a tumor.
Oh, wow.
In the site where the creature had intervened.
So it sounds like the alien removed the tumor.
No, maybe it put it there, or maybe it was trying to address it. We don't know.
Well, I hate to say it, but, back during, certain times of our own country, even with some of the prisoners we infected them with various diseases, or they put a bunch of people together that had certain diseases, and they didn't try to cure it. They didn't try to, which they could have. They wanted to see how the disease would run its course. So you never know. It could be other motives out there where when somebody is abducted or they have seen an alien, where the alien has done something, you don't know. It could be the other way too. Maybe they're infecting the human race, and seeing how long maybe it takes, or whatever. It's a two-way street. For years, all I hear is that they're there to help man and serve man. I don't believe that. I think you got two different agendas out here going on.
Oh, it's very obvious, and it's interesting because now that you mentioned that, what it reminds me of is what they had done in concentration camps when they were actually experimenting on people and actually injecting them to make them sick to see if a drug that they had given them would cure them. I mean, it sounds very similar to me. Why us in particular, why this planet in particular, I don't know. And then you have the other end. You have the ones that are seen as, when you talk about ancient aliens, they were seen as gods. They were seen as the ones that intervened, and, they would speak through telepathy. I mean, some of the cases, people got inspired or were told, we come in peace, you're destroying your planet, you've got global warming, you're using the wrong type of fossil fuels, or using fossil fuels would destroy your planet. So you're getting messages from benevolent beings, but you're also getting the other kind. And I do have a theory about this, Gary.
What is it?
If you'd like to hear it.
I would like to hear it.
There's two forces in the universe, or I should say the multiverse. You have the forces for good and you have the forces for evil. Everything that exists is in polarity. And, physicists always say you have to have polarity in order for things to exist. In order to have a balance, you have to have the positive pole and the negative pole. So I think what we're witnessing are both. We're getting visitations from good beings, and we're also getting visitations from the other kind. It's just that I think that we don't know which is which. You can only tell from what they ultimately do, whether they harm. Like in the case of even the cattle mutilations, you've heard the cases from Linda Moulton Howe.
Oh, yeah.
Who's pretty famous, yeah. And so I don't know anything benevolent coming out of that except, they're destroying healthy, viable animals.
Well, how about
but they're also doing that to people.
Yeah, they're also mutilating people, too. I have pictures on my computer that has been sent to me, especially around in the Amazon and Brazil, where they have found humans mutilated the same way.
Oh, horrible.
Certain things removed, and no way out in the jungles those things could have been removed without lasers, and it actually is done more accurate than any laser could do. That scares me. It really does.
Now, even closer to home, not just the jungles of Brazil, but the national parks.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the number of people that are just disappearing in national parks. Now, I'm not talking, and Politis can speak better than I can. He's the expert on this. Steph Young from the UK also has books on the topic and has also investigated that. But, it looks to me like other than the person falling or maybe having some kind of accident or meeting up with, I don't know, a psycho or something, a lot of these cases are unexplained. People reappearing 6 miles away, small children that end up walking up a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
A child would roll into a ball and cry themselves to sleep. They would not even move if they were lost.
Well, that little child you were talking about was found up in, the remains were found up on the mountain, which is really interesting because I really did a lot of research on my show about that. That little kid would head across a couple major rivers. And you know how many miles it was from where he went, disappeared from the campground?
How many?
It was either 15 or 19 miles away. Now, you trying to tell me a little kid can cross some major rivers and then walk up a mountain, and then, it was real weird circumstances. But the thing is, going back about 4 years ago, from 1900 to 4 years ago, there's like 13,000 some hundred people have disappeared in the national forest. Now, granted, some of them might have died, some of them might fall off a cliff, some might be, attacked by a cougar, a mountain lion, or a bear, but not that many. Not that many.
Yeah. And how do you explain that the ones that disappear, okay, given they're hiking and they're in a line, the ones in the front or in the back are the ones that are gone?
That's the point. I mean, it's something is going on. Now, there is a author who's wrote a book about the triangle, about UFOs. And his book is basically, it covers, 3 national forests where a lot of people have gone disappearing. And there's been a lot of sightings in that area of UFOs.
There you go. I think it speaks for itself.
I don't know. That's the scary part, Again, like when you go back to like what Dr. Roger Lear did, implant removals. I mean, certain things I could see how, I couldn't figure out how certain things could end up in a person's body. But when they were sent out to the lab, it was no way any of this stuff could have been, manufactured or anything on our planet. We don't have the capabilities. So it tells me that something is going on. What is really interesting is the people that have had their implants removed. A lot of these people that Dr. Roger Lear removed the implants from had other encounters of seeing UFOs close by afterwards. But they never went back, and they never were checked over again to see if they were re-implanted.
And I think there's a reason for that. I think they're tracking them. And they're tracking them to see maybe, I don't know, why particular people? Is it because there's something unusual about them?
I don't think so. I think it's the same way.
If you look at the national parks, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's the same way. We sit there, right, and we put tracking devices on animals. We put them on fish, and we just want to see what they do, and we monitor them. So I think it's random people. I that's my feeling. I don't think it's because anybody's special. It just, you happen to be at the wrong place at the right time.
And that's really uncanny. I don't talk about the disappearances in my book, I have to say that, but I do talk about people who have encountered beings, entities. I don't really classify UFO versus paranormal as being different, because some of these entities that are being seen right now are actually not flesh and blood. Some of them appear and reappear at will. There are some that, of course, are very benevolent, and then you've got the opposite spear, the very other end, where you sense menace. We're equipped so that we have that fight or flight response. And a lot of times it's right on. If there is a being out there that is, evil, we respond to it accordingly. We try and flee the scene.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of that in my book where people are trying to avoid something. There's a sense of being watched. Okay, I have a few cases of a person who actually created out of their head what we call a thought form. And in old Buddhist theology, a thought form is something that people wish, and I don't know if you're familiar with the term tulpa, Tulpa. I talk about that briefly, and there's one case in the book that has to do with a woman who lives locally, actually, who created a thought form. It manifested itself as a shadow being, okay, but some people saw it as some type of humanoid. So we really don't know, ultimately, where they come from. Or are they, what their agenda is. What my theory is that they're whispering to us that there are other realities interspersed with ours, that within this planet that we have, there are several different dimensions that exist at the same time.
I think so.
And obviously, the universe is so vast, but some creatures find it very easy to just make it here in a flash. And I think some of them want the natural resources. Maybe their planet is dying. I don't know. But there's some stories in the book that are pretty frightening. These are people who I met during my travels. I've traveled over 26 different countries in the world. And you will find these encounters everywhere in the globe.
And that's the scary part, too. I mean, and this has been going on long before there was the internet. And all these stories, kind of match each other. But I do feel that maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just guessing, but I think we maybe even have aliens walking among us, and we don't even realize it.
Exactly. And I think it's because they can mimic how we dress. They can, they can mimic very quickly how we speak. And they talk about MIBs all the time. I think they're a lot more sophisticated than that now, these days. So you wouldn't even know who the stranger is that's walking down the street.
Long as it's like that movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
As long as it isn't something like classic. That, then that would really alarm me.
Yeah. Although, it's interesting that you say that, because sometimes they could be so insidious you don't realize that they're altering your perception of reality.
Wow. Well, maybe they're doing it with all of us and we don't realize it.
And we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one thing I got to ask you, I would like to get you back on the show here, like middle of next month, if you'd like to come on, and we can continue on more, because I really find it refreshing, your points of view and stuff. Now, how big a book read is this? Is this a weekend read or more than a weekend read?
Okay, so the name of the book is Portal, A Lifetime of Paranormal Experiences. And as I've explained before, when I say paranormal, I'm talking the entire panoply from ghosts to demons, discarnate beings, all the way to humanoid encounters and cryptids. I have a case here of a woman who lives alone somewhere in very northern of Pennsylvania who encountered a Bigfoot. So I have different stories. I have dwarfs, I have elves, I have anything you can think of and people from all walks of life. I'm primarily trained in psychology, and so because of that, I guess people find it very easy to talk to me. I encounter them in my travels, and in the course of talking, what do you do for a living, yada, yada, yada. I talk about what I normally do, and then I talk about what I like to write about and what I like to investigate. And that's where these stories come about. The book is about 210 pages long. And I will not, I will tell you, not to bore you, but it's in 8 font, which is rather small. So it is a longer read. It